room service brought us several different items. The first item we got is an omelet with a hash brown. The next one we got is the classic breakfast. And then some coffee and some hot chocolate. Morning.
Good morning. Right now you are entering the in-room dining area. This is a small kitchen for the in-room dining or room service. And the next one, the full kitchen where you have the salad, appetizer. That's great.
Hello there. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Look at the butter. Or the cream.
Hello. Every section has a different cooking. This is a soup, fish, meat, and vegetarian. Yes. Good morning.
So, for today, which is Saturday, and not before. So, today we have
Downstairs in the deck B. Actually, we opened the crew nest at 11 until 1.
Desserts.
This is for the Pinnacle Grill.
Activity.
Good morning, good morning.
Help dogs like this become dogs like this. And we start with the people that train them, care for them, and drive them, the mushers.
Well, I'm Linwood Fiedler. I call myself a refugee to Alaska because we moved here, my wife and I, 30 years ago from Montana. And I race Iditarod, and pretty much my life circles around these wonderful dogs. Well, we live in a little town called Willow, Alaska. Cute little town. There's more sled dogs in Willow than there are people, and we're really trying to keep it that way. In the lower 48, we have pockets of wilderness surrounded by people. In Alaska, it's just the reverse. We have pockets of people, civilization, surrounded by massive wilderness. And to be able to explore it with a dog team, for me, has been certainly an addictive drug.
Linwood has run the Iditarod 25 times, so yeah, I would say that he is addicted. And the Iditarod is massive. It spans nearly 1,000 miles, and it passes through metropolitan areas and tiny native villages. Now, the route is loosely based on the first Iditarod, which happened nearly 100 years ago. And back then, it wasn't a race in the way that we would think of a race, because in 1925, the town of Nome, Alaska, was dying of diphtheria, and they needed antitoxin badly. 10,000 lives were at risk. So several teams of dogs and mushers decided to run a relay race, bringing the antitoxin all the way to Nome. And in the end, a trip that normally would have taken a single team over a month took only 6 days, and Nome was saved. The dogs were heroes. So much so that in New York City's Central Park, there's a statue of the team that ran the final leg of that. A husky named Balto was the lead dog. There is no statue for the musher. Now, today the race is longer, and instead of it being a relay, teams of dogs and their mushers have to cover the whole distance by themselves. They manage it in only 8 to 10 days. So how does this all work? Well, the dog sledding team has 3 parts. There are the dogs, the lines, and the sled. Let's start with the dogs.
Certainly starts with the dogs, your leaders. The next set's called swing dogs, and then we call the next set like first, second, third, fourth team. And then the dogs right in front of the sled are called wheel dogs, or that position's called wheel.
And running up between the dogs is the tow line, which connects to the dogs' harnesses via the tug line. Some teams also connect to the dogs' collars via something called a neckline, and all of that rigging connects to the sled.
The sled has 2 brakes. It has a claw brake, which is like carbide tip brakes that get pushed down into snow. It's more of an aggressive brake. And then we'll have also what we call a drag brake, which is a little mat. I put spikes in mine in case I get on sheer ice.
In addition to the sled, the team also pulls a little caboose with it. It carries blankets to keep the dogs warm, little booties for the dogs' feet, and emergency gear in case any dog or human gets hurt. And then there's food for the dogs and food for the musher.